Do you like books or movies or TV shows or songs with lyrics? You know, things that were created by writers? Of course you do. Do you like watching people type? I doubt it. Do you like hearing people tell you about how they came up with the things they type? Maybe. And there are lots of shows like that. But this isn't one of them. Do you ever procrastinate? Writers do too. So if you've ever enjoyed a great book or film or TV show or song or poem, and you thought, I'll bet the woman who wrote this epic high fantasy TV series, or the guy who wrote this funny queer sci-fi novel, or the person who writes this punch you in the gut poetry would be really fun to hang out with, and I'd like to hear them confess their bad not writing habits. You're in the right not writing place. I'm Benjamin Gorman, and the quiet guy behind the glass there is Doug, the producer. I write novels and collections of poetry, stuff like that. Doug tries his best to make me sound better. From Not a Pipe Publishing, welcome to Writers Not Writing.
Today's magic word is raccoon.
If I take my time.
Welcome, everyone. Today's guest is Magi Sumpter. Magi is the author of Little Rooms with Bad Lighting and Utopia in Green. When does Utopia in Green come out?
Utopia in Green, it's coming out in February. An exact release date is to be announced because we are looking for advanced readers right now. And anyone interested in doing so is more than welcome to DM me or Kith Books, Kith Books on Twitter, and let us know about that.
Excellent. And that's a poetry chapbook, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It'll be my second total. It'll be my first available both digitally and in print. So that's super exciting.
Broad readership. Good. Well, let's go for that. Let's get more poetry in people's hands. I appreciate that. Excellent. So as regular listeners know, we've got two kind of formats going on simultaneously. The show is on YouTube, so some folks are seeing us, and we are on a podcast, so some folks can only hear us. We always dress up in these amazing costumes for the show, and then we have to describe them for the folks who are listening to the podcast. So tell everybody how you're dressed today.
Well, I actually recently thrifted an exact stitch for stitch copy of Bjork's famous Swan dress from the 2001 Oscars, and I figured today was the perfect day to finally pull that out of the closet and throw that on. So that's the fit for today.
It looks amazing. And
thank you.
Thrifted it. How much did you find that for?
It was probably, it was in like the designer like premium section,
right?
So probably like $15, $15,
$20. That's
a
steal. Oh my gosh, it looks fantastic.
Thank you so much. You look fantastic as well.
Well, I wanted to compliment that. And so here in Oregon, you're in Alabama, I'm in Oregon, and here in Oregon, our two big mascots for our two big universities are the ducks and the beavers. And so I wanted to do a duck costume because I thought it would complement the swan costume well. And luckily, because of the ducks, you can get duck costumes everywhere. I mean, people who are not from Oregon don't understand this, but this is a full-size duck mascot costume, and you can buy them at basically convenience stores. Like, they are everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas beaver costumes, only in adult shops. I have no idea why. I think it might be a misreading of a state law, but you cannot get beaver costumes anywhere. But so I got this duck costume, and then I wanted to go for like a mallard thing and not like the white, all white Oregon duck. So I this headpiece that I'm wearing, I bought some spray paint, and I did coats of chrome and then coats of chrome green to get that. And
you would never guess that that's spray paint. That looks professionally done.
It looks really cool. What I didn't think of in advance is the fumes, and being inside this thing right now with 6 coats of spray paint on it was not well considered.
Have you got like a window open anywhere?
I have the window open, but no fan. And boy, inside so if I pass out in the middle of the show, it is not a comment on the conversation.
Just let me know. We can pause the show and we can go on.
It's a lot of spray paint fumes going on here. We'll see what that does to my mood. Like, I have no idea. It's my first time experimenting with 6 coats of spray paint in a mascot mask, so we'll see how that goes.
I believe in you. You've got this.
I'll do my best. So this is a show about procrastination, how we procrastinate. And so what kind of pop culture has been drawing you away from your writing this week?
Well, recently I've acquired a full collection of the Dragon Age video game series, which I adore and is one of my absolute favorites. And it's been really fun going through and replaying it all. I'm on Dragon Age Origins right now, so the very first game. I'm getting to go through and relive all of that nostalgia. And now that I have all three chronologically, I can import the past save files into the future games.
Which I had never. I played. Was it 3 and 4? Which was Inquisition?
That was 3.
That was
And
3.
then
So
4
I
is
played.
upcoming.
Maybe I played 2 and 3.
Okay.
And didn't connect that decisions made were crossing over.
I
Which
know.
really is very cool.
It is such an innovative and fresh like storytelling avenue, because the first one I want to say came out in like the very early, like 2004 2005, and Inquisition, the last rendition of it, came out still I think 2015. So even being almost 10 years ago, I think it's a really, really great take to be able to, oh yeah, this one tiny decision you made 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, still holds weight now and will continue to hold weight in future editions of the game.
Well, and I am very much feeling that as an author. I'm working on the third part of a trilogy.
Right.
And same thing. Decisions that I made years ago, I'm going, oh, I'm locked into that now. I've got a bunch of characters who are interacting in the Pacific Ocean. And I was like, oh, I could set this scene later in the book in Scandinavia. No, I can't. They're in the Pacific. They can't get to Scandinavia. I'm locked into a choice I made offhand, like not even thinking about it at the time. Now I'm kind of stuck. So, but I appreciate, as a storyteller, it makes me immediately see that they are taking storytelling very seriously.
Right.
They care, and you can see that feel that in the games. They think about the lore and the cultures and all of that. So that is one of the reasons that's a great series.
Oh my goodness. It's been so fun reliving that whole thing.
Yeah.
And fantasy has been always really up my alley, and so it really tunnel visions me in to not want to do anything else.
Oh yeah. Those are the kinds of games where I have to schedule them. I have to say, okay, I've got a bunch of projects I need to work on. I will reward myself with Dragon Age, because otherwise, if I start playing Dragon Age, the other stuff is not happening.
I'm gone for hours.
Yeah.
I'm MIA.
I'm a public school teacher, and I can't schedule those during the school year, because I would go, oh, I guess I'm not going to school for 2 weeks. So those are like summer, Christmas break. Like, okay, I got the new Dragon Age game. That's my entire winter break is going to be playing this game, but totally worth it.
Oh yeah.
So how about in the news? What is a news story that's been drawing you away from your writing?
So very recently on the college campus that I live right nearby, we have basically in the common area, there have been people over the last week or so like writing anti-Semitic comments in chalk all over the common areas. Ugh. And it's been extremely disheartening, but at the same time, watching the Jewish community on campus and watching all of these minority groups on campus band together, and stand in the middle of all these common areas together in light of that has been very inspiring and very enlightening.
That is really cool. It does, bring to mind this debate that's been going on since really pre-George Floyd, kind of beginning of the Trump era of, are we better off being able to see it? Is this something that is always, that people of color, that, Jewish people have been dealing with? I'm of Jewish descent and white passing, so I don't have to feel it, interpersonally,
right?
On a day-to-day basis. But so it's a very different experience than a person of color who has to experience that on a day-to-day basis. But when these kinds of things happen, they are scary for us, because it's like, oh yeah, this has always been there under the surface. And then there's this other part of me, and a lot of folks in the discourse saying, on the other hand, now we can see it. And maybe it's better to be able to see it and stand together and recognize it rather than having it be this hidden thing that was just, somebody's racist uncle would, occasionally
Right.
make a comment at Thanksgiving, but nobody else was aware of it. Like, no, this is something that is out there in the culture. Of course, the flip side of it is now having it out there and visible, how many more people are being activated, and saying, oh, this is
Right.
apparently okay because I heard about, this player from the New Jersey Nets who's now, down with this anti-Semitic documentary on Amazon. I guess this is acceptable. So it is hard to know, are we better off with it visible, and yet not as shameful as it should be, or were we better off when it was hidden? I don't have a clear sense of that myself, but I am glad to hear people were standing together. I think that
Yes.
is really important.
And I think, I mean, honestly, as far as my opinion is concerned, it does not matter in the slightest. I am blessed and I am privileged to be born into a place where I don't have to face as many hardships and I don't have to face as many of those trials. But I think it is so wonderful seeing people find a common ground and seeing people get together and know that they're making a difference and they're making things right for themselves. And it's honestly like so humbling to stand by them.
Yeah. Well, and people of different identities coming together is so important in that struggle, because if you just have people saying, I'm looking out for my own group, that group remains very small and very threatened. But when people say, no, my group also faces a different kind of discrimination and I'm going to stand with you, it makes a huge difference. And, of course, the news story that really has taken so much of my attention this week is Tyree Nichols' story.
Absolutely.
And that has been, not unrelated, unfortunately, to what you've been experiencing there on campus. We've seen this rise of anti-Semitism and this rise of overt racism. And I didn't understand until I did some real deep dive research why those two are so intimately connected. And, this goes back generations, but in the United States, the history of anti-Black racism, anti-Latino racism, anti-Asian racism is often connected to anti-Semitism. And I didn't understand why. And it turns out, and this is really gross to hear about, but if you are going to a group of already disempowered, poor white people, and you are trying to disempower them further by saying you need to be at constant war with people of color, they are a threat to you, you can't justify that if you are saying this group of people of color are inferior, because inferiority implies not a threat. And so if your goal, if you are in power, is to say to a group of white people, you must feel threatened all the time, you have to say this group of people over here are not a threat to you because they are inferior. They are a threat to you because they are being manipulated by this other group that is smart and evil. And so the at the root of the Nazism is always the idea that there's an evil small cabal of elites, and that's always connected to Judaism. And so you'll hear these people say, oh, it's George Soros, which is the new code for, here's a person who's Jewish and wealthy. And they are running the show and they are activating people of color against you. And that's how you make people afraid of a conspiracy that does not and never has existed, so that they are saying, oh, I am now willing to be afraid of people and simultaneously think of them as inferior, which is a bizarre disconnect, but that's always how the propaganda has worked. And so whenever we see these rises in anti-immigrant sentiment, oh no, people are coming over the southern border, there are people behind the scenes saying, and they're being secretly organized by people who are Jewish. And that was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, no, that's not something I've ever heard about. And
it's gross. And this goes back, literally pre-United States. This is rooted in this idea of Jewish people are inherently evil because by virtue of not being Christian, and are out to get you in some way. And that's how they are organizing everybody else who is against you. And so these things are connected. And then, they're intersectional. So then you tell
Right.
people, oh, and also part of that is women are inferior and people of color are out to get women. And so we must protect inferior women. And so the
Right.
sexism is always connected, right? And so, yeah, seeing what is, what happened to Tyree Nichols, you hear this kind of defense of the police's behavior that's, oh, well, the police officers who were beating him were also black, therefore this is acceptable. And it's like, no, this is part of a much larger system of oppression that includes anti-blackness felt by Black people who've been trained in a racist system, as we all have. And so watching that and hearing about other kinds of hate crimes and realizing these things are not disconnected.
Yeah.
I did see, and this was really lovely, and I hope people will share it. The family of Tyree Nichols shared this beautiful video of him skateboarding, and he loved to take pictures of sunsets, and they share about, this is who this person was as a father, as a, he liked skating, he liked, photography. Let's remember him as a full human being. And I think that that's so important right now, that we don't say, oh, remember this incident with this, but rather here was a man who,
Right.
dad, who was a photography lover, who was a skateboarder, and remember him in that way. And so I hope people will think about Tyree Nichols as a person, and check out that, if you have not seen the video that his family released.
I personally haven't, so I will.
It's worth your time. It's worth people checking out, just to remember him as a full human, and not just a person involved in one awful incident. So now that I've ranted about that, what on a lighter note, what is a hobby that has been taking your attention away from your writing?
Well, I'm kind of a workaholic, so I spend most of my time at work. I work pretty much 40, 50 hours a week as a bartender at a hotel, which is, by the way, the most fun job ever. And if you have the stomach for it, go for it. Like, it is so much fun. But aside from that, in my albeit pretty limited free time, me and my roommates, we will schedule these full-fledged elaborate game nights when we're all off, and we'll invite a whole bunch of people over, cook for them, play a whole bunch of board games, video games, what have you, and just have like an amazing time. Our board game collection is getting kind of ridiculous at this
I was
point.
just talking to a friend about the board games that she plays with, or a group on a regular basis, and they are finding that the games that they play are the ones that are longer and longer and longer. Like, the more they get into games, the more it's 5-hour, 6-hour games to play. And this is, they used to do D&D, which is many sessions, but now it's
right.
No, what is one game we can play that's so what are some of the games that have been coming back?
Well, pretty much anything by Unstable Games. They're really quick, like big party games. They're super easy. We've been playing Wrong Party a lot, Unstable Unicorns, that sort of thing. It allows us to accommodate for a much bigger group of people with a lot of different interests. And then if we've got a group together that's really just like down to party, it's Catan time.
Yes,
and
I am a big
no holds
Catan
barred.
fan.
It is like full bloodbath.
See, I love Catan. I was talking to this friend, and they were like, no, Catan's too simple for us. Like, they like these incredibly complex, and I'm like, no, Catan's probably where we, kind of top out. But I love Settlers. That is a great game.
It is so fun. And there's actually a very similar game that we've gotten. It's kind of, to me, it's a mix of like Catan and like Ticket to Ride. It's called Raccoon Tycoon, and you're just a whole bunch of funny little animals trying to buy up this railroad and trying to basically like have a monopoly over everyone else. And it is so cute and fun. And every time we play it, we just start doing fun little voices for everything we're going to do. And it takes the same level of like skill and preparation and strategy and ruthlessness of like Catan, and it allows you to just be a lot stupider with it.
Well, I am hoping that my fiance does not listen to this episode so that I can get that for her, because she is super into like raccoons,
yes. They just came out with a sequel game for it called Lizard Wizard, and we have not picked up Lizard Wizard. However, that is the next on our list.
Yes, well, if Crystal had her way, we would have raccoons as pets. My dog Evie, who you may see walking in and out, is what prevents us from having a raccoon in the house. So that's yeah, I think that Raccoon Tycoon. Well, we'll have to check,
Yeah,
and
no,
I'll put that in the
I've
show
got
notes
two
too.
cats. That is raccoon enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, raccoons are the cats of the wild. Um, so let's go to I'm gonna have Doug, our producer, fire up the ad music, and we'll do the ad break, and then we'll be back in just a sec. Thanks, everybody. This week's ad is for ads, more specifically advertisers, even more specifically people who want to advertise something on this show. Are you an author struggling to let readers know about your book? Do you have a product that would appeal to the kind of person who also likes to listen to writers talk about procrastinating? Do you like ads filled with questions? No? Well, then go to the homepage for the show and find the link on the bottom about advertising here. We're now on our 10th episode and have around 500 downloads, and that's not a lot, but the graphs are going in the right direction and our rates are very low, so why the heck not? Also, we have a couple of live shows coming up. Come participate in a live recording of Writers Not Writing at the Portland Fan Expo, which is from February 17th to 19th. Guests will include Jeff Davis, Derek Koch, and Nicholas P. Robinson. We'll also be at Norwescon in Seattle, April 6th to 9th. The guests for that one are TBA. We would love to have you in the live audience for both. So bring some fun questions to ask our panels of procrastinating authors, and we will see you there. Welcome back, everyone. So when you're not writing this week, what is something you've been daydreaming about? Daydreaming is both part of the writing process and potentially a means to procrastinate. What have you been daydreaming about?
Well, so I've been daydreaming a lot. On top of playing Dragon Age, I played Hollow Knight as well a lot recently. I've been replaying that over and over, and I've been daydreaming, like writing a poetry collection based off Hollow Knight, but am I going to make any progress towards that? Absolutely not. Aside,
that sounds so cool to me, and I'm wondering if you could do something with Hollow Knight. Folks who don't know, Hollow Knight is a deeper game than it is often kind of than it might look like if you were just looking at it from a distance. And it would be really cool to do something where you do Hollow Knight poetry without ever acknowledging that it's Hollow Knight poetry.
And that's what we're trying to dance around there.
Yeah.
And recently, I want to say it was in the middle of the Rona.
Right.
And a lot of things were going on. There was someone that I followed on Twitter. Their name's Samantha Fain, and they actually had a full chat book based off the show BoJack Horseman.
Oh yeah.
And the creator of the show acknowledged it, did a little back cover blurb for it, and I bought it, and it is absolutely beautiful poetry that stands on its own, away from BoJack Horseman, but it's definitely very much inspired and fueled by that.
That's very cool that you got a response. I wrote a poem in my last collection that is based on the third installment of Nnedi Okorafor's series Binti. And it's this kind of poem that you wouldn't recognize. You can read it without knowing that it's even vaguely about that, but it was kind of what I was feeling about this character in this moment, and it seems very abstract to the reader, and it's like, no, if you actually read the books, you'd go, oh, that's the new fish is the name of the ship. Like, I get it. And I reached out to Dr. Okorafor on Twitter and tried to see if I could get her to say, oh yeah, that's and no response. So Nnedi, if you're listening to this today, please recognize there's a poem in a book that is inspired by that fantastic series of novellas. But yeah, I think a Hollow Knight one could be really cool if you could kind of pull it off where people are like, I love this book of poetry. And then you're like, well, guess what?
Oh, well, guess what? It's all about Hollow Knight.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of just the imagery, in addition to both the imagery and the way that those various creepy scenes make you feel that you could play with,
And so many wonderful characters, even the small ones that show up once or twice, they've got so much lore packed into them for no reason whatsoever.
Right.
And it is just it's it's a beautiful game, just like the Dragon Age games for me. It's a beautiful game from a storytelling aspect.
Yeah.
Because you don't know everything in the slightest.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that strikes me about Hollow Knight is the art is not
stunning,
realistic, but it's beautiful. Like
gorgeous,
it is
absolutely.
gorgeous. And so that would be cool to play with too, from a,
yes,
can I convert this into language that rises to that level of beauty? That would be really cool. I mean, there's a challenge for you. Write a Hollow Knight book. But I think folks would love. I mean, I think Hollow Knight fans would go, "Oh, I see. I recognize."
Right, and and people who don't know are just like, "Oh, this is just good. Like, I like this.
Yeah, this is just good stuff." Yeah, there's layers. So you've got a book coming out right now. Very soon. But what else is going on that people should know about your career?
Well, as far as like career's concerned,
Utopia and Green is the big thing, right? I mean,
yes, that's the big thing.
We timed this, so this is just at the right time.
Yes.
I mean, that's coming out very soon.
I've been honestly on like a 1-year writing hiatus because of work and kind of getting back into like the snowball of things, because I've completely uprooted and changed my career twice at this point. I was a paralegal for a while, which allowed me to have time to sit in my office and write and do anything I needed to whenever I had the time. And now I'm like always on my feet, always moving, always having.
Can't do that as a bartender. No, that does not allow for that.
The worst we'll do is on a very slow day we'll play Jenga.
Yeah.
And
you could take notes though. I'll bet you are collecting stories that will be.
Oh, always. My favorite one to date is this was about a month and a half ago. We had a family who was dropping their daughter off for college, and they were staying at the hotel, and they came into the restaurant and they sat down and they pulled out this ratty looking spiral notebook and a deck of cards. And they just started playing a game of gin rummy that they had been carrying on since that little girl who was going to college was 8 years old.
How cool.
And it was the exact same game, and they were still tallying up the scores in this ratty spiral notebook.
I hope it was close. I hope it wasn't like mom is, 3 million points ahead of everyone else, and everyone is just crushed. And this is, fine. We'll humor her. Like, I hope it's like, no, we've been playing this for 18 years and we're 6 points apart,
Right. And the way they explained it to me was that they were going to continue playing this game every time they got together until one of them passed on.
Yeah.
And then they were going to invite someone new to the game to take that spot and just keep it going and just fill up all these notebooks, which was the coolest thing to me.
That is really cool.
It's like I saw a documentary a couple of days ago. It's a little mini doc on YouTube about a guy who has been running the exact same D&D campaign for 40 years.
Yeah.
And
the characters are all like, so well developed.
And he basically was like, yeah, no, I invite someone to the game and they know that they're going to be in this thing until something happens to one of us.
Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. It makes me, maybe this is a parenting fail on my part. My son is going off to college this next year, and we don't have a running gin rummy game or cribbage. Our thing is Halo. And so they'll just have to keep making new Halo games so that we can be playing those forever, because, but even, there are enough Halo games now in the series that we can go, I've got a little time, and he's like, okay, I'll pause Elden Ring or whatever else he's playing. Yeah. We will play more Halo together. So yeah, for years and years to come, we will still be doing our long-term Halo game.
That's me and my brother with the Kingdom Hearts series.
Oh yeah.
My brother, he's 2 years younger than me, and so when we were growing up, it was basically like, you two are going to like the exact same things as you grow up, because I'm only getting one thing and y'all are gonna have to learn to share. And so it was the Kingdom Hearts games for us, and we all got absolutely obsessed with these games. And we've played every single installment all the way through. We've been living in separate states for about 3 years now, and every time something new comes out or we hear any news whatsoever, we call the other one and we're like, okay, so have you heard about the new Kingdom Hearts rhythm game that is there now that you play through the whole thing just to get one tiny bit of lore about Kingdom Hearts 4, which isn't going to come out for another 15,000 years.
Right.
And so it's been very fun and a great avenue for like me and my brother to stay in touch and keep hanging out and have something long running.
Yeah, well, I think this is perfect. So we have a weekly poll.
Yes.
And I think we have just come across our topic for our weekly poll. So we could ask folks, of the following series, which is the best? Kingdom Hearts, Halo, Dragon Age, Hollow Knight. And see, let people weigh in. Which of those is the best? I would love to hear people's preferences, or maybe we put in other and see where folks come in on that. Last week's poll, which was actually 2 weeks worth of polls, came to us from Scott Boss. He asked how people felt about bidets. And the options were, I love blasting my butt clean with water. I might try it in the right situation. Never, TP for life. And when in Japan.
I mean,
Yep. And so the results were a three-way tie. This surprised me, actually. Three-way tie. Love blasting my butt. I might try it. And when in Japan.
I like that everyone's open to the idea.
Right. Nobody went with like, no way, I'm only going to use toilet paper forever. Right. Like, which frankly surprised me. So
I'm really glad that everyone and all of your viewers, you've got a good viewer base that is open to hygiene practices.
Well, that's what it tells me is like the viewers of this show are open to new experiences.
Right.
Obviously. They're like, okay, well, I'm willing to try, maybe just on a vacation, but I'm at least willing to give a new thing a try, which, I appreciate. Yeah. I'm very much a when in Japan person, which, I'm old dog, new tricks. Like, yes, when I am over, but I'm coming back to my toilet paper.
Right.
But, if you're when I was in Italy, when I was in Egypt, like, okay, this weird thing is in the bath. I'm going to give it a whirl.
Why not?
Yeah. So
there's buttons. Let's press them.
Exactly. Well, what does this do? Oh, that's a surprise.
Yeah.
So what's in your to read pile? What book is going to be helping you procrastinate in the near future?
So very recently I went on a road trip and I picked up Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. I had bought the sequel first on accident. And so I went back, and while I was on my trip, I saw the first one, bought the first one, read a good chunk of it on the way back home, absolutely adored it. Have not touched it in like 2 weeks. Not mainly for lack of trying. I definitely do want to read it and get back into it. I just have not had the time or have not had the energy to walk the 5 steps to my bookshelf.
Yes. But that's Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that sounds like something I would enjoy as well.
It's basically imagine you are part of a D&D campaign, your group of adventurers. That campaign was 25 years ago. You guys decide to revisit it 25 years later with the same group. And so it's this retired mercenaries guild that has gotten together and is going back on one last hoorah, but they're all like a little too old to be getting out and doing what they did all that time ago.
What was the movie? There were 2 of them about like retired CIA agents. It's
gosh.
Red. Was it Red? Was that what it's called?
I think so. Yeah.
So this is the fantasy Red. Like,
essentially, I guess yes. So. Yeah.
That's awesome.
The first one I'm reading, currently sort of kind of getting back into it. And then the sequel, Bloody Rose, is about one of their daughters and her adventure. And so
it doesn't stick with the olds forever.
No, but it is one of the funnier books I've read in a very long time, which I was not expecting in the slightest. Like, I was legitimately laughing out loud while reading, which doesn't happen to me a lot.
I like that in my fantasy, though. I like some comedy in the fantasy.
It's very
Terry Pratchett. Like, I love that.
Oh, yeah. But I highly recommend, based off the first 150 pages.
Yeah.
Go and give it a read.
I mean, and that's it. My to read pile movie is The Circle by Dave Eggers. which
I actually recently read that, and
Oh,
I very
really?
much enjoyed it. Yes.
I have not read it yet. I came across it in this great bookstore in Portland, Rose City Book Pub. And I was like, oh, this, I pulled it off the shelf going, Dave Eggers, one of his books was kind of intentionally pretentious, which is an interesting choice. Like, is that, you know, is pretension something that you get away with because you're being ironically pretentious, but also intentionally pretentious? And so I left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. I was like, oh, he's clearly very talented. But then since then, and that book totally blew up. And since then, what he's done with his success is so cool that it like made up for it. Like he's, started all these, programs for students who are, into reading in San Francisco. And I think it's San Francisco is where he's located. And I'm like, okay, he really is a cool guy. Like I can look beyond that book. And so then I, was like hesitant when I pulled it off and then I read the back book cover description and I was like, yeah, this is one that I'm going to have to check out.
I'm pretty certain that's the only book of his that I've read, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I won't spoil it at all for you, but you'll like it. You'll like it a lot.
Yeah, and that is my impression, is that it's spoilable. Like it's a lot of intricacy and okay, yeah. So I will have to check that one out. But yeah, everybody else check out The Circle by Dave Eggers. Okay, so where can folks follow your work and connect with you?
All right, well, you can my main mode of communication is through Twitter, so you can find me through Twitter at Magi Sumpter, just MagiSumpter, or on Instagram, which is the same thing, just with an underscore at the end.
There we go.
And that's where you can find me.
Yes. Well, and folks should be looking out for you in the next month because do you know, are they planning on doing a pre-order for Utopia in Green, or will it just arrive on bookshelves?
It should go on pre-order a couple of weeks before it's actually released. If not, get it anyway.
Well, yes, absolutely. But I encourage readers.
Media.
One way to support authors is that pre-order. It's a weird thing, but you kind of, to some extent, game the algorithm by saying I am interested in this book. Then the algorithm says, oh, I'll bet a lot of other people will be too before it even arrives. And so if you want to support Maggie, please order your copy of Utopia in Green as soon as it is available on pre-order, so even that like Amazon poetry, realizes this one's going to be really good.
On your shelf. Like yes. It's got a really nice cover. My mom did the cover for it.
Oh, how cool.
I know, right?
How did that come about? What was that process?
So basically my mom's a photographer and she's an artist. And whenever Little Rooms with Bad Lighting came out in June of 21, she read it, and that one was probably a little more like nostalgic for us because Little Rooms was a series of one-page little micro stories from every house I've ever lived in. And so my mom, whenever she read over it, she drew this giant picture and she was like, I read this and this is what it made me think of. I loved it so much. And so I got the drawing that she did tattooed on me.
Oh, and how cool.
Whenever the second book came around, I was like, well, since I already know you're going to draw for it, do you want to just do the cover? And so she got on a couple different softwares and threw together the current cover for Utopia in Green, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I feel like encapsulates the whole thing perfectly and would look really nice on your bookshelf if you decide to purchase it.
And that's a parenting win for your mom too. What a cool mom.
Yeah.
Like that's
absolutely. She's a rock star.
Supportive in this very practical way. That's she's great.
Oh yeah.
So now I'm going to be even more excited about, has it been released? Can people see images of that?
Yes, you can see it on my Twitter and on Kith Books, and I believe it should be on their website as well. If not, then it should be in the next few days.
Oh, very cool. Folks who have ever been in this industry know covers matter. Like
covers matter.
So it's cool that you have one. And I say to authors, I also own a small press, and I tell my authors all the time that I want them to have a cover they are proud of, so that they are out there saying, check this thing out, and so part of the marketing is having a cover that the author loves. And it makes a big difference.
Right now, as it stands, I'm pretty sure my mom has accidentally locked herself into a contract for the rest of our natural lives. She's going to be doing every cover that I need.
Well, and she may think to herself, this one is going to be a very expensive tattoo. Like she's, at some point she's going to be burdening you with some really, she's like, the more black ink I am using here, the more this thing is going to cost. But that is very cool. How many houses did you get in the tattoo? I'm curious now.
It wasn't any houses specifically. I will see if it will show up on camera. It might not. But shoot. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
One on my arm right here. So it's a light bulb, and inside of the light bulb, it's there's a bed sitting on a thunderstorm, and there's the moon up above. And she's got little details like there's a lava lamp sitting on a nightstand here. There's stars in the sky. It was so gorgeous to me, and I was so blessed to be able to take the original like pen and paper drawing to the artist and be like, this is what we have to work with. Please make it happen. And he was so excited to make it happen too.
Well,
and so when I eventually
to have all those parts be meaningful to you too.
Yes.
So often a tattoo is like, well, I got this on a, but I'm just like you. I'm like, no, I want all the parts to mean something. If this is going to be here forever.
Yes. And I've got 4 right now. And plans to get more very, very soon.
I warn my students all the time, the thing about tattoos is once you get one, the first thing you start thinking is, what will be my next one?
Right.
So watch out. Getting the first one is breaking the seal.
Get one. You've got
nobody's got one tattoo.
You've got 20, and there's really no in between.
Oh, I've got mine similar to rewarding myself for finishing a semester with a video game. I'm working on a trilogy of paranormal novels, and when the trilogy is done, then I get the next set of tattoos. So I can't get those. It keeps me from getting one too soon. I've got to finish the next book first, and then I can get the tattoos that go with it. So that's part of my incentive structure.
Yeah, I've got several lined up for the near future at some point, and when those happen will honestly just be when I have the funds. Like whenever I have the funds and when I have the time, I will go and sit down.
Well, but my fiance's kid is going to tattoo school currently.
Oh, and that's so cool.
This is dangerous because we're now going to have somebody who can give us discount tattoos in the family.
There's a friends and family discount now.
And they're a very talented artist, and so it's like, oh no, this is we're gonna end up with a lot of ink.
Shoot, this is not gonna go well.
Yes, as long as I can like keep it below the collar for work, then I have to be totally tattooed.
I'm very thankful that of all the very talented people in my family, none of them are brave enough to go near a tattoo gun.
Yeah, because otherwise it would be all over.
All bets are off.
Yes. Well, I should thank some folks before we wrap up here. I want to thank the artist Max Oakland, who reached out and provided one of his songs for our intro song, I Prefer the Dusk. Let Max know you like it by following him on Twitter at Max Oakland. And thanks to Halizna CCO for their song Kids for the ad break. If you're in a band and would like your song used on the show, I would love to highlight a listener's work like Max's song. So email that to me. Thanks, as always, to Doug, the producer, for making the show sound good and taking the blame when it doesn't.
Thank you,
Mac.
Doug.
Thank you, Doug. We appreciate that. And I cannot forget to mention Writers Not Writing is a production of Not a Pipe Publishing. So please go to notapipepublishing.com and check out the amazing books written by writers who didn't procrastinate too much. If you like this show, rate and review it wherever you found it. And please check out Maggie's book and soon-to-be second book and rate and review them too. Even a very short review and a single click on that 5th star makes a huge difference to authors. So if you've got 3 minutes, make Maggie's day. That would be
I'll even take a 4-star review. I'm not picky.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're feeling, folks, but be honest, but also be kind. So let's wrap up here. Maggie, how would you like to do the send off of the show? I talk too much. You get the last word.
All right. So this is some advice that I've always had for myself, and I would like to give you guys as well. You are not responsible for anyone's happiness except your own, and no one is responsible for your happiness except for you. So go and make yourself happy today.